Okay, so first I need to thumbs up that you can hear me. Yay. So two caveats going into this talk. I noticed that I'm feeling very nervous. And I think there's just so much content in what I'm hoping to share that I'm pretty sure I'm positive I won't get to it all. But my heart is beating and I feel a little out of breath. So it's important stuff to me anyway. So the caveats are, simple one is I have a cold. I'm at the tail end of a cold. So I hopefully won't have a coughing jag in the middle of the talk, but I might have to blow my nose. So I apologize in advance for that. I'm by myself, so I won't infect anybody. And the second caveat is more important, which is that I've heard the adage to speak from your scabs, not your wounds. I am speaking from a place of very much in the process of things. So that could be interpreted as speaking from my wound. It doesn't feel like a wound. It just feels very, very much impacted by life. So I'm just saying that as a caveat in that it is just a certain moment in time. But I feel that it is why I particularly chose the koan that I did, and super, super grateful to Seisen Roshi for including me in the roster of giving Dharma talks, and to my Dharma brothers and sisters there in facilitating me doing so, because I feel that it is important to share the bones of our experience with one another, in as honest and vulnerable as a way as we can, because that's how we learn together. So I'm hoping something is of use to you. I'll see if I don't have to hold up the microphone, would be great. So you tell me if you can still hear me. Can you still hear me now? Oh, Ari says a little. How about now? Is that fine? Okay. Okay, so I'm sharing a case from the Blue Cliff record. And some folks I know and practice with regularly feel that koans are old stuff, not very relevant, and don't relate with them. And I just kind of invite us into, I kind of look at koans as sort of Zen folklore, and it really is our lineage speaking to us. So I invite us to really relate as much as we can to this koan, and I don't think you'll have a hard time relating to it. So the koan is case 55 from the Blue Cliff record, and it's Dogo's condolence. And I realized I ran downstairs in the break to look up the word condolence, which is sympathy with a person who has experienced pain, grief, or misfortune, which I would pretty much guess is all of us. So Dogo's condolence. Dogo and Zengen went to a house to express condolences. Gen rapped on the coffin and asked, "Living or dead?" Go said, "I don't say either living or dead." Gen asked, "Why don't you say?" Go said, "I won't say, I won't say." On the way home, Gen said, "Your Reverence, please tell me right away. If you don't, I shall hit you." Go said, if you like, I'll allow you to hit me, but I'll never say. Gen hit him. Later, after Dogo passed away, that phrase really gave me pause. Later, after Dogo passed away, Gen went to Sekiso and told him this story. So said, alive I don't say, dead I don't say. Gen asked, why don't you say? So said, I won't say, I won't say. With these words, Gen was enlightened. One day, Gen appeared in the lecture hall with a hoe and walked from east to west and from west to east. So asked, what are you doing? Gen said, I am seeking the sacred bones of our late master. So said, on the billows of the great ocean, white caps swell to the sky. What do you search for as our teacher's sacred bones other than that? And then there's some other comments. Secho said, alas, alas. Gen said, that is good for my training. And Dai Genfu said, the sacred bones of our late master still exist. So it strikes me on one level as saying anything is the robbing that Gen was that Dogo was saying when he was saying, I won't say, I won't say. It's a great compassion of that no one can answer our central questions for us. But I'm going to say some things anyway, and hopefully they're of use to you. So some of you know that my mom died about 2.5 weeks ago, and we had her cremation on Monday. And I had been very involved with not the direct diapering her and all, but very much involved with her caretaking for the 15 months before she died, and closely being with her on a daily basis for about the last 2.5 months. And one thing that I want to mention about that is that my mom had a form of dementia called dementia with Lewy bodies. And towards the very end, she cognitively, I don't think probably could put much together, but her consciousness, her awareness was very clear. It was absolutely present. And so that's a really interesting koan to me, that her brain, as we kind of think about our thinking capacity, was no longer ordered in certainly the way it had been previously in her life, but her conscious awareness was beamingly present. So in terms of this koan, obviously central, it is, and I was thinking this is probably the central religious question, is what is life and what is death? And for my daughter Annie has been staying with me this week since the cremation, and she recounted to me this episode from her childhood that I didn't remember, but she was telling me that she thought she was in kindergarten, and she was actually out in the meadow outside of our house, And this friend of hers that was growing up in a very fundamentalist kind of setting told her that her family was going to hell and was going to like burn in damnation because we didn't believe in God and Christ and Jesus. And Annie said that she came home and she asked me, because Emily said, you know, after you die, you're going to go to hell. And Annie said, she asked me, well, what do you think happens after we die? And I said, I don't know. And what was really interesting of her sharing that with me now was she said that was really comforting to her as a kid, that it was okay not to know. So some bright moment from my motherhood that I appreciate. But you know, in our practice, the question of life and death is absolutely central. And at the same time, the focus is not on what happens after we die at all. The focus is on how we live and how we appreciate the life that we have. And in the koan, obviously, Zengen is really, he's on fire with this question of alive or dead. Is this alive or dead? So it's not a casual thing. And our practice isn't a casual thing. Any of us sitting here, we're not taking this question of life and death casually. We're really looking into what is this life all about? And Dogo, in his compassion, and just functioning as a teacher, says, I can't tell you. I can't, this is your question to answer. And if I said anything that took that away from you, I wouldn't be doing you a great disservice. So in this question, and I wanted to read you something. Our meditation, our sitting group is, we have a practice where we read a book and discuss it after we sit on Thursday evenings. And coincidence, no coincidence, our chapter this last week was on transiency. And this is what Suzuki Roshi had to say about impermanence. When we realize the everlasting truth of everything changes and find our composure in it, we find ourselves in nirvana. Because we cannot accept the truth of transiency, we suffer. So the cause of suffering is our non-acceptance of this truth. Subjectively, transiency is the cause of our suffering. Objectively, this teaching is simply the basic truth of everything changes. So this alive or dead. And how can we, this morning, Annie showed me this clip of Maizumi Roshi in 1991, and he says, this question of who am I, this is the central thing of our practice. So this question of alive or dead as what? And this looking into what is the basic nature of our so-called existence. That is the question of who am I? And that is the question of alive or dead. And Suzuki Roshi lays it out totally clearly. This is the central thing of our practice. This is essential, that things change is exactly what we suffer with because we can't hold on to the things we love and we get the stuff we don't want. And it is our salvation to fully surrender into what am I as this non death, non living reality. So this was sort of the next kind of section. Um, and I'm just going to bring this up. So later, after Dogo passed away, so I'm just going to mention that as um, a way in which for us to really appreciate the teaching and the teachers that we have, and you know my appreciation to Seisen Roshi, um, to really make use of the teachers that we have while they're with us, and that anything can change at any moment. Um, and you know, one of the things that it was a very strong experience after my mom's creation that too, but cremation, because I was kind of leading the thing and felt present, um, was was very aware that she was lying in a cardboard box, about to go into a crematorium, an oven, and um, I felt like I was very paying attention, um, and afterwards, I felt like after we walked out of that room, I felt like I could lie down on the sidewalk and go to sleep. I felt so exhausted. And the rest of the day, I felt that way. And so, this reality of this transformation that happens, and that, yes, intellectually, we understand, and I certainly understood very intimately in the last 2.5 months of my life, my mom's life, that she was going to go. But the reality of and watching the smoke come out at the top of the oven of the crematorium, literally her body was gone, um, and transformed into everything. Um, so and on a sort of a lighter note, we have this practice where when I would drive home from her house or wherever, yeah, her house, usually I was leaving her house, um, she would say, "Give me 2 rings." And that was when I would get home, I would call her number, but just let it ring twice. And then she would know I was home safely. So, you know, in the towards the end, I just was like, "Well, give me 2 rings." Haven't heard him yet in that form, in that form. So, so Dogo passes away, and um, Zengen still, we don't know how much has changed for him, how much time has gone by, but he's still asking the same question. And he goes to Sekiso, and he asks, um, he tells him the whole story, what happened with Dogo and what Dogo said. And Sekiso follows suit, and he says, "Alive, I won't say. Dead, I won't say." And Gen asks him again, why won't you say? And so, and at that, Gen has a insight. So this also points up that We can be asking, we can be studying, we can be investigating the same thing. We are investigating the same thing over and over and over again. And something strikes us differently at a different moment. And so at that moment, we can only assume that Gen saw something differently in terms of that basic aspect of his existence. And the question of alive or dead was no longer a duality. And just so then the last part of the koan is Gen appears in the lecture hall with a hoe and walks from east to west and from west to east. And I had a really strong remembrance of Maizumi Roshi talking about this koan, and it had to be at Zen Mountain Center and probably during Summer Ongo. And I remember him getting to this point in the koan and him starting to cry. And he just said, it's too much. It's too much. And so that's been part of the koan for me this week. And again, walking from east to west and from west to east and saying, where are the relics of my teacher? And this is in my understanding, which is very limited. So you take it up for yourself. But this is the question of how we fulfill our ancestry, how we honor both personal and dharmic lineage. And I imagine, so again, you see what comes up for you. And I think Echo and Cho are both here, so you can discuss it with them another time too. But I see, again, having had that sort of awakening to this basic nature of life, walking back and forth in the Zendo and saying, wake up. Where are the relics of our old teacher? Where is this heritage going to live now in you? As you, as us, as the pine trees and the propane being burned to make heat come into my room. And my daughter having profound questions about the validity of this practice. Always, 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 it's right here, right now, as this. And I just imagine, again, walking up and down with the hoe, like he's going to dig up the relics, as a metaphor for how is it being realized now, as us, as this, as the smoke coming out of the top of the chimney that is now integrated with, I don't know what level of the atmosphere. So my mom is flying high. And all of us being made of stardust and everything that's been recycled through all of time. And I guess in the comments, I kind of related with Daigenfu's "The sacred bones of our late master still exist. The sacred bones of Maizumi Roshi still exist." But not in the way they used to exist. So I think I wish you could see, I should show you with the camera. I've got notes all over the place here. I feel like Jack Kornfield. If you've ever been with Jack Kornfield when he's giving a talk, he's got like stuff all around him. So I look like him right now. But I think I want to close with this poem, and then I would really welcome any comments. And interestingly enough, this was when I was looking up Unitarian memorial services for my mom. This poem came up as a common one for Unitarian services. And it's actually very similar to Maizumi Roshi's death poem, or what was given to him as his death poem. It wasn't one he wrote, but it was something he really liked, apparently. It's actually very similar. So the poem is "Do Not Stand at My Grave and Weep" by Mary Elizabeth Fry. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn's rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Thank you.